Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about Jerry Jeudy's fifth-year option getting picked up by Denver. Plus, I thought we'd take a look at ESPN and The Athletic draft grades/rankings for the Broncos and see how they graded George and Sean Payton in their first draft together. But make sure to subscribe if you have not already. I would love to reach our next milestone off of today's video, 13.5 thousand subscribers. We are 59 subs away. It's a lofty goal, I get that. But hey, Denver had 5 picks in this draft, and I think they fared pretty well. So if they can do it, so can we. Let's start today's show off with a bit of news here. Not a big, surprising news piece item, but Jerry Jeudy did have his fifth-year option picked up by Denver before the deadline. Today was the last day, so it had to get done before May 2nd, and Denver opted to pick up that fifth-year option. So we're going to run through what that means, like what the billing is for 2024, plus just look at some Jerry Jeudy stats and talk about his role on this team moving forward and what to expect. But I think we can all agree right off the bat, this is not like groundbreaking news, right? This is not a surprise, rather, to anyone. Frankly, I'm just a bit surprised they didn't do it earlier. So it seemed like it was a slam dunk to me. Ultimately, they decide to wait, but Jerry Jeudy does get his fifth-year option picked up after the draft. So Ian Rappaport was the first one to report it, but let's look at some details on it. So the fifth-year option cost $12.9 million. So that's what Denver is owed to Jeudy in full, 100% guaranteed for 2024. Now, with this fifth-year option being picked up, Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and now Jeudy are all under contract through 2024. So, barring any trades or release, the top 3 guys plus Marvin Mims are all going to be together for at least 2 more seasons. Like I said at the top of the show, this was 100% expected. I don't think anyone thought that they might not pick up Jeudy's fifth year. It was a no-brainer to me with the way he finished last season. Now, when you look at Jeudy's career stats there, like, we are talking very highly for a player that was a first-round pick and has never gone over 1,000 yards. But hopefully the ankle injuries are behind him and he can do what he did at the end of last year, where he put up 523 yards and 3 touchdowns through weeks 13 to 18, and then stretch that out over an entire season, right? If you took those numbers from weeks 13 to 18, and then you prorated them over 17 games, this is what Jerry Jeudy could look like. A 1,400-yard guy and 8 touchdowns. So that is why there is a lot of belief and optimism of, hey, what Jeudy did in the last 6 weeks, if we can capture that with consistent or just good-ish quarterback play, we've got ourselves a true number 1 wide receiver. So the Broncos, in my opinion, they need to see a full year of production if they want to see him be their long-term wide receiver 1 and get a contract extension. Otherwise, he might be out of here after 5 years. Plus, if they don't get that full year of production, or if Denver, unfortunately, is below 500 at the trade deadline, those trade rumors are going to continue to linger. And I'm sure we're all in agreement. We would like to squash those trade rumors and see Jeudy just be an awesome wide receiver for this team. And there have been no questions asked. He is the wide receiver of this franchise for the next half a decade or so. So let me know, will Jeudy be that wide receiver 1, right? I'm leaving it sort of open-ended, but you know what when you see it, right? Mike Evans, wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1. Can Jeudy get to that level and be Denver's undoubted, no questions asked, number 1 guy? It remains to be seen. I don't think he's at that level right now, but I sure hope he can get there, but time will tell. Next up on the show, I want to talk about some draft grades we've got. I give out my draft grades once the draft was over on Sunday. Feel free to go check it out. That link's in the comments and the description of this video. But Mel Kiper dropped his draft grades, and he gave Denver a B. So, for a team that did not select until pick 63, a B is pretty generous if you ask me. Also, you factor in that the Broncos only had 5 picks, which was tied for the second fewest amongst all 32 teams. A B, once again, seems pretty kind. Now, what's interesting is you got to factor in that Riley Moss trade up, where they gave away a future third-round pick to get a player. I think that should be factored into grades and whatnot. Now, Mel Kiper was kind of a pussy, no offense. He gave everyone B's, B minuses. No one got a bad grade. He was Charmin soft when it came to giving draft grades out. Now, to recap what Denver did in this draft, Marvin Mims, Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, J.L. Skinner, and Alex Forsyth. I mean, all 5 picks right there, I think those were all 5 good players, right? They didn't have any pick where you left wondering, who? Never even heard of that guy before. Marvin Mims, a speed, stretch the field type of receiver. Drew Sanders, a blitzing inside linebacker. Riley Moss, a unicorn of a CB. J.L. Skinner, a great safety who only fell because of an injury before the combine. And Alex Forsyth, a 7th rounder who quietly might be the first guy to start of these 5 players. Now here's what Mel Kiper had to say on Denver's draft specifically. We know Wilson had a horrid year 1 in Denver. But there is reason for optimism now with Payton on. But is there a reason for optimism now with Payton on board? I think so. Even if it doesn't quite make Denver a Super Bowl contender, the Broncos did decently with what they had this weekend. So I do agree with Mel Kiper that with only 5 picks in the barrel, Denver made some good selections. I think Marvin Mims and Drew Sanders are going to be good football players. And in round 3, you're looking for that, right? They might not be year 1 starters, but they will be good assets down the line. The only hiccup I have with Denver's draft, recap, if you will, was trading away a future 3rd-round pick. That's something that's going to haunt me, I think, for a little bit. Now, before we look at the Athletics draft rankings, we've got an awesome deal over at Fanatics, a 2-shirt combo, a long sleeve and a short sleeve t-shirt on sale too, by the way, when you go to chatsports.com/DEN combo. I've already put that link down in the comments and the description. Get 2 shirts on sale, a long sleeve and a short sleeve when you use our exclusive link. So now let's look at the Athletics draft ranking. So Dane Brugler doesn't do A, B, C, D, or F. He just ranks all 32 teams from 1 to 32. And he put Denver at 26. Now this seems a bit more realistic than Mel Kiper's B grade because, like I said, they only had 5 picks. They weren't on the clock till 63. You can't give them and a team that had multiple 1st or 2nd round picks the same type of grade, right? It's just not equal. Now, Denver ultimately finished with 3 picks in the top 100, and I think they got 3 good players, okay? Let's look at Brugler's award/superlatives, if you will, that he gave out for each team, starting with his favorite pick. And for Denver, it was Drew Sanders, the linebacker from Arkansas, unanimous All-American last season, great pass rusher, right? For being an inside linebacker, the guy had double digits, tackles for loss, and sacks, 6 pass breakups, an INT, and 3 forced fumbles. He is simply a do-it-all linebacker. He might not be the best in coverage and whatnot, but Drew Sanders, he's going to be a really fun player to have on the field. Here's what Brugler said on him. My top-ranked linebacker, Sanders has intriguing versatility as a do-everything front 7 defender. Long, lean, and fast. He has instincts and range, although he must become a better take-on player and clean up the almost plays on his tape. Nevertheless, landing Sanders at pick number 67 is an absolute steal. And I agree. I thought Drew Sanders could be one of those late first and sure thing in the 2nd round players. So I am sure Denver went in with a draft strategy that did not have Drew Sanders in it, because they probably didn't think he would fall all the way to them at 67. But when he was there, they were running that ticket in. Now, I still think Jeudy Jewell and Alex Singleton are going to be your week 1 starting inside linebackers, but I'm sure they will find a role for Drew Sanders in obvious passing situations to bring on an extra pass rusher. Maybe you go with Jewell and Sanders and you drop Singleton. So at the end, Drew Sanders might not have a gigantic role in 2023, But Josey Jewell is a free agent after this season. He only has 1 year left on his deal. And all of a sudden, you could be ready to move forward with Singleton and Sanders as your starting inside linebackers and not have to fill that void next offseason. But all in all, it's a great pick because he was the best player on the board most likely at 67, and I'm a big fan of this selection. The other award that Brugler gave out was his day 3 sleeper pick or day 3 player that might surprise you. And for Denver, he went with Alex Forsyth, the center from Oregon. Now, a lot of people thought Forsyth might go way earlier in the draft. So for Denver to find him just before the draft ended at 259, yeah, that was a big-time steal in my opinion. Now, Forsyth, his PFF grades last season, while he was an Oregon Duck, we'll throw him on screen for you in just a moment, but Forsyth was one of the better centers in football, and some people even had him as a top 3 or 4 center in this draft class. 72 overall, pass blocking wise, 85.8, run blocking 70.3, 805 snaps. He's a bit undersized, and that's why he likely fell as far as he did. He doesn't have a gigantic size or great height or weight or anything like that, but he's definitely not like Tiny Tom or anything. So Brugler for Forsyth wrote this in his write-up. Graded as the top senior center in the class by some scouts, Forsyth had bad injury luck throughout the draft process, which allowed Denver to nab him in the final round. Though not overpowering, he is technically sound and plays with the grit required at the pro level. Denver has done a ton of work on their offensive line. Free agent acquisitions like Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey. Big bucks going out to those guys. The only question mark or the last piece of the puzzle they had going into the draft was the center position. Now, the new regime might like Lloyd Cushenberry more than the previous one did, who more or less made him a healthy scratch the second half of the season. But I think this definitely could be a training camp battle. So the Broncos might have drafted a starting center with a 257th overall pick in the draft. Cushenberry, Kyle Fuller, and Forsyth are all going to go into training camp battling for that week 1 starting gig, and all 3 guys having a fair shot of landing it too. I think Cushenberry is the leader right now, and it'll be his job to lose. But if Cush starts to struggle and Forsyth starts to look good in preseason games, don't be surprised if Denver trots out a starting center that was a 7th round draft pick. So now I want you all to let me know who your favorite pick was made by the Broncos. They only had 5, so it's not like the Rams where you have to pick between 1 of 14 names. There's only 5 names, so give me a name down in the comment section. If I had to give a favorite, I'd go Drew Sanders. I like the Marvin Mims pick, but I think Drew Sanders is a better overall football player. He's going to be a fan favorite. He's going to be one of those players that's a Broncos legend if all goes well, right? I'm not saying he's future Hall of Famer necessarily, but he's going to be one of those great name a random Broncos player that's actually really good. Drew Sanders. He's got the pass rushing abilities, which everyone looks for, and he's a well-rounded football guy. Love the Drew Sanders selection. That is it on today's show. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. We picked up a bunch of new subscribers during the draft. So if you're new to our channel, thank you so much for hopping aboard. And if you have not subscribed, consider doing so.